I'm, I'm the professor of psychiatry and head of the Department of Mental Health at the National University of Asunción in the Paraguay. He's a leading researcher at the National Council of Science and Technology of the Paraguay, and his area of interest is psychodramatology, epidemiology, psychopathology of mental disorders. So he's giving a speech about the climate change, psychiatry, and mental health. So over to you. Welcome, Professor Julio.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I would like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me to this conference. As Daria said before, I am professor of psychiatry and senior researcher at the National University of Asunción in Paraguay. I'm also a member of the World Psychiatric Association Geopsychiatry Special Interest Group. Our group seeks to inform debates and research on the social and environmental determinants that affect health, one of which is climate change. This presentation is based on our group's latest paper, published in the Asian Journal of Psychiatry. As a note, English is not my native language, so I apologize in advance for any mistakes that I might make. Recently, the significance of the social determinants of mental health has gained an increasing recognition. It is crucial to remember that these determinants are shaped by a lot of factors, including geographical, commercial, political, economic, and cultural ones. Among these, climate change stands out as one of the most critical and pressing challenges to human health in the current century. The ongoing climate change and the occurrence of extreme weather events have a detrimental impact on our ecosystems, leading to a decline in food security, causing human migration and displacement, and endangering the well-being of people and exacerbating social inequalities. The implications of climate change are multifaceted, extending to the depletion of sources of livelihood, depletion of food and water, and inadequate investments in infrastructure. Moreover, climate change exacerbates the risk of internal displacement, migration, and individual and collective instability. Climate change has a multifaceted impact on human health, which can be grouped into three distinct categories: direct effects, such as extreme temperatures and weather events; indirect impacts in our ecosystems, including changes in global food supplies and the transmission of vector-borne diseases; and indirect impacts in our socioeconomic systems, such as increased poverty, exacerbated inequalities, and migration. As we speak, South America, and especially Paraguay, are being hit by an unprecedented heat wave. Now, here in Asunción is around 40 degrees Celsius, and we haven't even reached summer. Climate change, for sure. We are now in a climate change era, and we are boiling ourselves in the global south. Climate change's impact on critical health factors, either directly or indirectly, is being increasingly acknowledged. Direct effects on mental health include changes in seasonal patterns affecting mood, stress caused by the extreme temperatures, pollution, internal and external migration, disrupted circadian rhythms, and the HPA axis. Indirect effects on mental health can impact both the individual and society levels, resulting from collective violence, involuntary displacement and migration, civil strife, and economic loss. With the growing awareness of the mental health implications of climate change, terms such as ecological grief and climate anxiety which refer to climate-specific and environment-specific mental health outcomes, have gained increasing prominence in global literature. Ecological grief is characterized by a sense of loss, anxiety, despair, or hopelessness resulting from direct or indirect experiences of environmental degradation related to climate change. Climate anxiety or eco-anxiety is a term used to describe the distress that arises from concerns about the effects of climate change. It is not necessarily a mental illness, but rather an emotion that from the uncertainty about the future and serves as a warning of the dangers of a changing climate. McMichael and Lindgren in 2011 and Woodham and colleagues in 2019 have acknowledged the importance of addressing this issue. It is widely acknowledged that the occurrence of large-scale extreme events, such as tornadoes, severe storms, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, tropical storms, floods, and tsunamis, is likely to increase as a result of climate change. These events have the potential to cause significant harm or loss of life, as well as damage critical infrastructure and social networks, which can have a detrimental impact on the mental and physical health of those affected. Following the occurrence of natural disasters, PTSD, major depressive disorder, sleep disturbances, generalized anxiety disorder, substance use disorders, suicide, and grief reactions have been identified as being significantly more prevalent. Additionally, it has been reported that forced relocation, increased violence, and intergroup conflicts have been observed. The vulnerability of both the older and younger age groups to these factors has been acknowledged, especially in the Global South. It has been argued that the psychosocial consequences among young adults might manifest in the long term. Recent research conducted with a global sample of youth aged 16 to 25 years found high levels of climate-related negative emotions, such as sadness, anxiety, and helplessness. Traumatic events such as death in family or friends, loss, and separation may result in trauma. Displacement, for example, displacement following Hurricane Harvey in the United States led to high rates of PTSD. Similarly, displaced students following Hurricane Katrina in the US as well reported high levels of traumatic exposure and subsequent distress, with significantly more symptoms of both depression and PTSD. Recent reviews have demonstrated that climate change poses significant threats to the unique mechanisms of vulnerability faced by indigenous communities globally, and especially in the Global South. These communities, particularly those living in remote and rural areas, are at heightened risk from the impacts of climate change. So it is crucial to address these risks and support these communities in adapting to the challenges posed by climate change. Maintaining and sharing cultural traditions, as well as spending time on land, have been found to be effective coping strategies for some communities with dealing with trauma and utilizing traditional environmental knowledge and practices. Traditional teachings, such as those offered through music, arts, and dance, can also aid in coping. Similar to this, research has shown that, for example, Canadian youth in the Inuit community of Rigolet reported feeling resilient when they were connected to their Inuit culture and had strong relationships with their community, family, and friends. Resilience is a crucial aspect of managing distress, and therapeutic interventions can help foster a sense of safety, hope, and optimism while promoting social connectedness. These interventions can be administered during the pre, peri, and post-disaster periods. It is essential to safeguard the human rights of individuals affected by climate change, including the rights to live, self-determination, development, food, health, water, sanitation, and housing. Our objective should be to promote fairness in addressing climate change through the pursuit of climate justice. It is imperative that climate change actions align with human rights obligations and principles. A human rights-based approach to climate change mitigation and adaptation incorporates socioeconomic, cultural, and political considerations into measures aimed at promoting the empowerment of individuals and groups, particularly those in vulnerable and disadvantaged situations. Recommended measures include alternative energy sources, conservation of forests, and tree planting projects. And of course, community-based resettlement schemes in partnership with affected individuals and communities. The geopolitical determinants of health put forth by Persaud and colleagues presents a more comprehensive perspective on the influence on geographical, political, economic, commercial, and cultural factors on the social determinants that impact mental and physical health. Geopsychiatry, as exposed by Casaldei-Maya and Bugra, focuses on the psychological effects of factors such as climate change, disasters, globalization, population growth and migration, agricultural production, industrialization, geopolitics, socioeconomic transformation, and cultural shifts on individuals, families, and communities. For example, Persaud and Bugra suggest the utilization of geopsychiatry as a foreign policy instrument that incorporates the assessment of vulnerability and aid distribution based on the mental health requirements of each country. This is aimed at identifying priority areas for interventions in regions where significant levels of vulnerability and mental health issues have been identified. We have developed a Latin American version of the CAPE Vulnerability Index: compassion, assertive action, pragmatism, and evidence version for Latin America and the Caribbean. And we have used this instrument in South America in recent years. This index is a globally recognized foreign policy index that utilizes evidence-based methodology to evaluate and prioritize the allocations of foreign aid to countries in need. This index assesses a range of factors, including access to healthcare, wealth and poverty, international inequality, conflict and disasters, population displacement, corruption, and international assistance. 8 indicators are founded in the following 9 factors: life expectancy, disability-adjusted life years, physicians per capita, gross domestic product, Gini coefficient, current conflicts, refugees by country of origin, corruption perceptions, and external aid received. This instrument incorporates the impact of climate change on wealth, health, and adaptive capacity into its vulnerability assessment, as this issue perpetuates existence inequalities. So it is imperative that mental health professionals collaborate with policymakers and geopolitical experts to address the uncertain future of mental health at an international level. The challenges posed by climate change, pollution, suicides, water insecurity, famine, and floods require interventions that can help individuals and communities respond effectively. This effort may also reduce the number of displaced persons seeking refugees from catastrophes and disasters. Refugees and displaced persons are disproportionately burdened in low-income countries, with the proportion increasing from 70% a decade ago to 83% currently. The current international health agenda does not adequately address the impact of climate change and geopolitical factors on mental health. Geopsychiatry represents a more comprehensive and novel approach within the global mental health framework, as opposed to the traditional individual or geographic perspective. As I said before, I'm a member of this special interest group. We are having a lot of research going now, and we are working to promote geopsychiatry and the knowledge of social determinants of health, mainly in the Global South. Our next event will be held on the next couple of days, Geopsychiatry, Displacement, and Gender-Based Violence, sponsored by the Royal Society for Public Health in the United Kingdom. We are having Professors Joanna Correa, Dr. Prasanna Getu, and Professor Maggie Rai, who are going to be presenters of this event. This is the webpage if you want to know more about this upcoming event, and we are looking forward to see you all there. Thank you very much.